Recording has started.
Hello. Thank you for tuning in to this recording, which has started. Hello and welcome to the No One Asked You podcast. For this particular series, I am joined by my wonderful co-host.
ThatDarnKitteh.
ThatDarnKitteh and I are both going into this story completely new with almost no knowledge of the story or world.
Each segment, we intend to cover what happens in each new chapter and discuss our experience along the way. This is Mistborn Abridged, a blind read through, and today we'll be covering chapter 29.
29!
Let's get into it. Well,
Yeah.
front
This
load.
was an exciting chapter. We finished the journal.
I have thoughts about it.
So do I. Killed a few suppositions I had in the past, I believe. Some of the epigraphs that I had theorized would be generations beyond the event. Whatever
Yeah.
made him immortal doesn't seem to be the case.
Nope.
Yeah. But then we get a nice Vin Sazed scene.
I like that.
And then we get a nice Kelsier Sazed scene.
Mm-hmm.
Vin makes a choice this chapter.
Yes.
Indeed, she does.
That was okay, we'll speak about it at length, but did you expect that? I mean, we did question. We were like, wanted to know whether she would.
I
Were you shocked? That's what I'm asking.
I was surprised, but not surprised.
Yeah. Go. Oh, sure. Oh,
More,
you did that. You went that way.
I was I was surprised for a moment, but then I was like, oh well, yeah,
There it is.
yeah.
We'll get into it then.
Let's get into it, shall we?
Yeah.
The others all think I should have had Quan executed for betraying me. To tell the truth, I'd probably kill him this moment if I knew where he'd gone. At the time, however, I just couldn't do it. The man had become like a father to me. To this day, I don't know why he suddenly decided that I wasn't the hero. Why did he turn against me, denouncing me to the entire conclave of Worldbringers? Would he rather that the Deepness win? Surely even if I'm not the right one, as Quan now claims, my presence at the Well of Ascension couldn't possibly be worse than what will happen if the Deepness continues to destroy the land.
I'm also wondering the same questions. I'm also wondering why. Okay, why did this person who essentially seemed to have told him he was the hero initially, why did he change his mind? Because he was so convinced and now he's denouncing it. And yes, cool. It seems like they needed some sort of win against the Deepness. Like they couldn't let it continue, so they needed someone to take up this heroic thing. I want to speak to Quan, is what I'm saying.
Yes, I too would like to speak to Quan. There are a couple of lines in the not epigraph journal in this chapter that talks about what happens if the hero uses the power incorrectly, right? Or selfishly.
Yeah.
And we have to sort of ask ourselves, is the Lord Ruler genuinely the hero of ages? And does he fail? Or is he not the hero of ages, but he thinks he is and tries anyway? Now, I had a particularly interesting time in reading this one line. Even if I'm not the right one, my presence at the Well of Ascension couldn't possibly be worse than what will happen if the Deepness continues to destroy the land. I take that as an extremely high, morally good position to take. Even if he's not, he has to try.
Yeah, that's what I mean by like the immediacy of it. So it's like we can't wait around. Like, fine, I'm here though, so I must take it. And you like, I agree that there is this moral good of it, saying, well, someone must go. I'll do it. You're not giving any alternatives, Quan. So yeah, there is goodness underlying that and sacrifice.
Right. And it's sort of a strange thing. With Frodo, I mean, there's no prophecy saying Frodo is the one that must bear the ring, or that he's the only one to do it. But
Yeah.
we know that Boromir would have been corrupted by the ring, as he was. We know Gandalf refused to carry the ring, and Aragorn refused to carry it, merely to aid. I don't know enough about Lord of the Rings lore to really theorize what would have happened had they tried, other than that I know that it would not have worked. Like
Yeah.
that they would have succumbed, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
Which, but at least you tried, right? And
Yeah.
if the hero of ages isn't popping up anywhere saying, no, it's me and I will do this thing, if the Lord Ruler is the only one who's willing to step up and try, and if
Doesn't
he
that make him a
sees that,
hero? Yeah.
exactly, doesn't that make him a hero?
Yeah. So it's like he's not the chosen one, but he chooses to be the hero, and because being the hero is not great, it's still a self-sacrifice. So there was goodness in the Lord Ruler before this, and in this chapter, in this logbook excerpt that we get next, we kind of get an idea of maybe it's kind of a confirmation of what happened. It says that listen, we've been speaking about it all along that he was corrupted somewhat. This gives us more of an idea of there was some sort of rule that if you use this power in a certain way, it will corrupt you. So he was unworthy, essentially. That's how he failed.
Yeah. Now, I had brought up the topic, but I didn't actually ask your opinion or your theory. Do you think he is the hero of ages and he failed, or do you think he's not the hero of ages and therefore he failed?
He's not the hero of ages and therefore he failed. But I do wonder, okay, so say we have been theorizing, oh, Vin's the hero of ages or Kelsey is the hero of ages, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, that's so there were centuries before this that they would have sat and waited for this chosen one to come along. What would have happened if the deepness continued on its current trajectory that it was on when the Lord Ruler popped up? So that's exactly the reasoning that he's got in this epilogue. I mean, prologue. Aha, epigraph. is like he's like, well, wouldn't it just be better to fight the deepness at all costs? Because can you imagine saying no? This is basically what Quan would supposedly be saying. It's just no, we've got to wait. We've got to wait. Sorry, it's not the real. You're not the real one. I was wrong. We have to wait for the new chosen one, and that would mean that they have to wait generations and generations. And we don't know enough about what the deepness is really doing. Maybe it would have created this whole, because we also get some stuff about the geography around where the deepness is. Maybe it would have like caused this sort of weather for the whole world. And is that preferable to ash?
Right. Prophecy can lead into timey-wimey troubles, right? So if Vin or Kelsier are the actual hero of ages, then obviously they won't be born for 1,000 years, which if the deepness were to destroy the world in that time, then how would they be there to stop it? Which suggests that the Lord Ruler has to try and that the Lord Ruler has to fail.
Everything
to buy time
for a reason. Yeah, it all has to happen for a reason so that we could get to where we are now.
And
we
then
don't know. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, and then what does that say about free will in this world?
What does it say?
Does it say that it no longer exists? That the Lord Ruler was always going to do what the Lord Ruler does? That the hero of ages can't fail?
Well, the way that Christians kind of do it is that the way it turns out, yes, it's known, but you are still making they can coexist. You are still making the decisions yourself. Just the fact that it's predetermined in that, well, it's pre-known. There is knowledge of it, doesn't mean that you are a slave to a predetermined output. It's all of the thoughts that you're going to have are the ones that you're going to have. All of the decisions that you're going to make are the ones that you're going to make, regardless. Like it's the acceptance that there is a plan while also knowing that you choose. It's a weird theological discussion that probably BMO could have better than I can.
Entirely possible.
Yeah. Usually the word that they talk about is providence.
It's interesting stuff to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with all of that said, and without further ado, Kitteh, Vin has some reading to do.
Gosh damn it. I was like later on in this chapter, I'm like, wow, that's one of the longest speeches Vin has ever made. And then I'm like, oh, when I opened this up now, I was like, wait a second. Now I have Dorkus is gonna make me read this, isn't he? Okay. We'll try it.
100%.
My great reading. Okay. It's almost over.
Vin read.
We can see the cavern from our camp. It will take a few more hours of hiking to reach it, but I know that this is the right place. I can feel it somehow. Feel it up there, pulsing in my mind. It's so cold. I swear that the rocks themselves are made of ice, and the snow is deep enough in places that we have to dig our way through. The wind blows all the time. I fear for Fiddick. He hasn't been quite the same since the creature made of mist attacked him, and I worry that he will wander off a cliffside or slip through one of the many icy rifts in the ground.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah.
Feddick has not been the same since attacked by a
Right?
Misty. Did you immediately think Condra? Feddick's not Feddick?
Well, he hasn't been the same. Yeah, it might be. I did not immediately do that, but I can see exactly why he would say that. The creature made a mist, attacked him. It does seem that does seem Condra-y because he was taken over. He was stabbed, but he's still alive. That's very Condra-y, Condra-esque.
It could be it could just be some form of like PTSD type situation, and there's no mention of bones in the passage and
Yeah.
the Misty thing doing anything with bones, but
Mhm.
that phrase hasn't been himself. Just
And yeah, there is the myth that we started the whole book on, where the mists take your soul. So and you come back. The people seem to, or the scars seem to have made mist wraiths and Kandra the same thing, the same creature. Because they're like, oh, the mist wraiths will take your face. So we spoke about that they're digesting your body, so they could be taking your face that way. But Kandra like seems to take over your body. So you're right. I think you're on the money here. This is definitely a Kandra. So, but that would be so. It seems like this is something that lives around the deepness, and there's a mist. There was mist around this area, so the deepness and the mists are together, which we've kind of put together for a long time. In any case,
right.
No wow moment there. But yeah, good catch. I did just put a question mark there. That's all I did, and I read this more than once, and I still didn't go. I'm worried that he will wander off a cliffside or slip through one of the many icy rifts in the ground. So that is a kind of, maybe when a Kandra first takes over someone, they have this period of adjustment or something.
Right.
You know, like she sounds zombie-like.
Right.
Yeah. So maybe Kandra have become more sophisticated as time went on, as more of them were created.
Or it has to get used to the body.
Yeah,
or
something like that.
Something.
Yeah. I'll be surprised if it's not a Kandra. I'm very convinced.
And then that has me wondering if this would-be Feddick somehow intervenes in stopping the deepness in some way.
Gets mixed up in this. I don't know. That I'm not sure of. That is a possibility, but I'm not sure. Whereas I feel very convinced that this is a Kandra that is being spoken about here. Thank you, Dorkus.
Well, we'll see. Continue, please.
The terracemen, however, are a wonder. It is fortunate that we brought them, for no regular packman would have survived the trip. The terracemen don't seem to mind the cold. Something about their strange metabolisms gives them a supernatural ability to resist the elements. Perhaps they have saved up heat from their bodies for later use. I wonder if that's a thing. I don't know.
I imagine that's more feruchemy. You have to spend some time being cold so that you can be warm for longer.
So maybe you would like change the rate of freezing your ass off, and that would be how it works. But yeah, that he doesn't. I guess he doesn't put the word ferrochrome to it, but that is what he's thinking about. Saved up
Mm.
heat from their body for later use. They won't talk about their powers, however, and I'm sure that Rashek is to blame. The other packmen look to him for leadership, though I don't think he has complete control over them. Before he was stabbed, Fedek feared that the terracemen would abandon us up here in the ice. I don't think that will happen, however. I am here by providence of the terrace prophecies. These men will not disobey their own religion simply because one of their number has taken a dislike to me. So for me on that, I was like, okay, yeah, he's got a bit of a read of the situation. That okay, fine, they they might be leaning towards Rashek on on maybe not trusting this outlander guy, but there is a deeper sense of duty to their religion to believe in this person who's supposedly fulfilled certain signs and things like that. And there was Kwan, who was the one that said, no, this guy's the real guy. Now that he's changed his mind, but the rest of them still agree. So the packmen are not going to go against that.
Right.
I did finally confront Rashek. He did not want to speak to me, of course, but I forced him. Unleashed, he spoke at great length regarding his hatred of Klenium and my people. He thinks that we had turned his people into little more than slaves. He thinks that terracemen deserve far more. He keeps saying that his people should be dominant because of their supernatural powers.
Okay, hold on a second.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. I mean, obviously, we're getting this filtered through the Lord Ruler's POV, but it seems like a good quality that the Lord Ruler wants to know. Hey, Rashek, why do you hate me?
Yeah.
And you know, for all of Rashek's issues, and I'm getting the sense that Rashek isn't of the highest moral good either, but the Lord Ruler sees the sense or sees the point. He's willing to hear Rashek out and
Mm-hmm.
consider Rashek's POV. And
Yeah.
that seems like a good quality, right?
Yeah. It does. It seems like a reasonable quality. It seems like, yes, in what we have read before, there seems to be like certain tendencies that this character could lean into and become more of the baddie. Remember back when I brought up the thing of maybe they're two different people, that still exists in there. But yeah, definitely the reasonable guy is here. He's saying, okay, I'm looking at what, and I'm confronting him as well, making sure that he speaks to me. I'm not letting him just continue his, just whispers in the background. Like, no, just tell me, come. And I guess, well, we've got it all together, literally. So you've just said it's good that he wanted to speak to Rashek, right? But he goes, but I forced him. So it's like we're like, yay, he's having the conversation, but it's like, oh, can you imagine? What do you mean by forced him?
Right. All of that said, though, in the epigraph that we got here, even still, he's saying, I'd probably kill Quan if I knew where he was.
Mm.
I want to talk about feudal lords
Mm-hmm.
executing people and then link it to the death penalty and how that is nowadays a very controversial thing. You look at someone in the Lord Ruler's position and you have to ask yourself, well, if he's willing to kill this person who just committed treason, essentially, does that make him a bad person by the standards of the society that he is living in right
Yeah.
now, not by our standards?
Yeah.
Because I wonder if we're supposed to see him contemplating being willing to kill his father, and his father figure more
Mm-hmm.
specifically. And if our takeaway from that is supposed to be that the Lord Ruler's not that good of a guy, therefore he will act selfishly when the time comes, which we can more or less gather is what happened. But, well, I don't know.
Well, no, I mean it's literally there in the passage we started the chapter with. The others all think I should have Kwan executed for betraying me. So that's within, other people just think that. That's how it is. For the time that seems to be a reasonable bit of action. It's not like, oh well, there's just baddies surrounding him and all the baddies just want Kwan executed. It's like, no, that is his society, basically, his his social setting, people are like, yeah, definitely he deserves being executed. So the point that you're making about, this sort of in the past being executing people for certain things being common, uh, these are different times where we're trying to put ourselves in. Obviously, both fictional, but it obviously is based in, we think of this in like medieval terms and things like that.
Right.
Okay.
And despite my interest in history, I'm not a historian, so I can't speak to the philosophy of the day with regard to death penalty and punishment,
Mhm.
etc. Other than to say that,
It's changed. That's the thing.
yes, that
Okay,
seems
let's.
like a fair and reasonable statement to say. It has changed.
I fear his words, for I see some truth in them. Yesterday, one of the packmen lifted a boulder of enormous size, then tossed it out of our way with an almost casual throw. I have not seen such a feat of strength in all my days. Sorry, I know we just had a big talk, but I did highlight that I fear his words, for I see some truth in them. Like this goes back to the just the whole situation with the nobility. The nobility are supposedly now, if we go into present day with Vin and them, the nobility are supposed to be above all of them because they do have this supernatural ability, and well, they have the possibility of it at least. So, and I mean, we've had this from Ham where he goes, aren't they supposed to rule over us? Because I mean, they're Mistings and Mistborn, so wouldn't that mean that they have power and they should rule? So that is an echo over here. And also, again, just thinking now, my conspiracy theory engine is running because of Rashek. Rashek has this thought. So I'm like, did Rashek? Because you were saying, oh, did the Khandra interfere? For me, I'm like, did Rashek interfere? That it seems more likely for Rashek to have somehow interfered, and that's how Ferakemi gets involved with the Lord Ruler, and I don't know, some sort of blending occurs in the deepness that caused him to kind of merge with Rashek. I don't know.
Interesting. So I definitely think Rashek is a type to interfere in some way.
Because he's always, and he thinks that Terracemen deserve far more. Keeps saying that his people should be dominant because of their supernatural powers. So it's like that ideal is
Maybe.
still within the ruler. But he agrees anyway. I fear for his
So,
words, for I see some truth in him.
right. So what are the odds here then that the Lord Ruler is on the brink of success? Rashek interferes, and that is why the Lord Ruler hates the Terracemen.
Mm-hmm. I feel like there is more. Well, my theory, okay, is Rashek is more than just this side character or like just this guy with some commentary. I would feel like something happened with him, and I know the people that know the book are either going, "Ha ha, that's so wrong," or "Ha ha, you might," yeah, and that's fun. That's what we're here for, is to theorize and enjoy our experience along the way. Shall I continue? I'm sorry, this is very long, and I keep. Maybe I just try and give myself some breaks.
No, please. Up to you. It is up to you, Kitteh.
These terroristmen could be very dangerous, I think. Perhaps we have treated them unfairly. However, men like Rashek must be contained. He irrationally believes that all people outside of Terrace have oppressed him. He is such a young man to be so angry. It is so cold. When this is finished, I think I should like to live where it is warm all year. Brashes has told of such places, islands to the south where great mountains create fire. What
Okay,
will it be?
okay, okay,
Yeah.
okay, okay, okay.
Mhm.
Couple of takeaways from there. Lands to the south where great mountains create fire. Volcanoes,
Ash
obviously,
mounts.
right?
Yes.
Ash mounts, right? And the
Mm-hmm.
fact that the ash mounts are to the south, and the Lord Ruler hasn't seen them or necessarily heard of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which makes me wonder if Klenium is further north. And I'm trying to open up the page to the world map to take a look specifically where Luthadel / the Ash Mounts are. Because I always thought that Klenium was in the south. But yeah, Luthadel, and then what look to be volcanoes, Calling, Toranost, Morag, are all north of where Luthadel is. So does that mean that Clenium would be farther north than those? What do you think of that?
I'm wondering how does Terrace fit into this? So Terrace is, and also we go Northern Dominance is supposed to be, that's where North is supposed to be. They've decided. So you're saying that Clenium would be
Well,
more further
Clenium
north than
was,
Northern Dominance. Yeah.
yes, well, Clenium was south of Terrace, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Earlier on. But if the Lord Ruler doesn't think volcanoes, he has just heard stories of great mountains that spit fire, that suggests that he doesn't know what volcanoes really are. And if there are great mountains to the south, that means that he is north of them. Therefore, Clenium should be north of the northernmost volcano on the map that I can see, which is Toranost, but south of Terrace Dominance, if Terrace is north of them.
I'm very bad with geography. But I see what you're talking about. I'm looking at the map. I can see they're all... Maybe he moved the... We don't even know what's happened to space and time with this, because maybe he moved the... Look, I'm just thinking of Wheel of Time sort of things. The world was broken in Wheel of Time, so things moved all over the place. Anyway, I agree.
Although,
Geography things. Hashtag.
yeah, although it is interesting that I'm looking at this, that Western dominance seems to be to the north, whereas Northern dominance seems to be to the east.
Yeah,
What is
the way
going
that
on?
the compass is like north, you would think is the top of the map, but it's actually where it says Northern Dominance. That's where I'm thinking north is.
Interesting. Well, that's something to ponder over. Continue,
Yes.
please, Kitty.
What will it be like when this is all over? I will be just a regular man again, an unimportant man. And sounds nice, more desirable even than a warm sun and windless sky. I'm so tired of being the hero of ages, tired of entering cities to find either armed hostility or fanatic or adoration. I'm tired of being loved and hated for what a bunch of old men say I will eventually do. I want to be forgotten, obscurity. Yes, that would be nice. If men read these words, let them know that power is a heavy burden. Seek not to be bound by its chains. The terrorist prophecies say that I will have power to save the world. They hint, however, that I will have the power to destroy it as well. That's from the beginning, way at the beginning. Yeah, I was like, I recognize that. So that was that's quite amazing. Like that's quite awesome. Just an illustration of none of this has been really in chronological order, because this came at the back at the end. When I read that, I definitely thought like it's the beginning of this tome thing that is like I'm telling the story. So if men read these words, but this is like just it's the end of the logbook. Okay. And also this thing of him wanting to become unknown and be in obscurity, that seems like a good thing. That he doesn't want this fame and he just wants to go off and live his life normally and just go to a warm place. Just go and just wants to go to Hawaii and stay there. It seems like that's a good thing. It's not like he's like, I will do this with the world and I will do that and I will, there seems to be this thing of I'm tired and I just want to finish this and leave. That seems like a good thing. That's a good thing.
But that wouldn't be possible if he has to stop it in perpetuity.
Yeah. You're sorry, you can't go and you can't be done. And if he gets corrupted by the power. But
okay,
yeah.
So what if Kelsier and Vin end up saving the Lord Ruler instead of killing him or stopping him at the end of the book?
What if we will be like, that is a cool ending because Brandon Sanderson subverted our expectations in a good way, or didn't subvert our expectations because we got our expectations right. I would just say I'm satisfied.
It would be a really interesting turn.
Yeah.
Redeeming the Lord Ruler.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Redemption.
How would he go about doing that?
Death.
Oh.
I don't know. Yeah, they save him by ending his eternal suffering.
Yes.
Add that to the pile of all the theories. Okay. And shush in the comments there. Okay. The terrorist prophecies that I have more power. So yeah, that was there. They hint, however, that I will have the power to destroy it as well. And I think that's kind of what happened. This is the big part. Hold on to your butts. I will have the ability to fulfill any wish of my heart. He will take upon himself authority that no mortal should hold. Yet the philosophers warn me that if I'm self-serving with the power, my selfishness will taint it. So I wrote next to this, "Welp." It's like, well, I know exactly what happened.
Yep.
There we go. Like, okay, look, maybe Rashek is involved in this whole tainting thing. Maybe, like he has the power and Rashek says, "You don't deserve this power." And then he gets angry and lashes out at Rashek, and that like corrupts him and things like that, something to do with that. But yeah, I think we can take it, as Sazid later on says, I think we can kind of conclude, yeah, the power was tainted by his selfishness, because every person has that. And he does have the wherewithal to say, to think, he doesn't go in there thinking, I'm fine, I'm all good, it's fine, I'm perfectly strong and I will take on this burden. He literally does now ask, is this a burden that any man should bear? Is this a temptation any man could resist? I feel strong now, but what will happen when I touch that power? I will save the world, certainly, but will I try to take it as well? Like, those are good questions. That's what we're going to ask. That's what we've been asking. Such are my fears as I scribble with an ice-crusted pen on the eve before the world is reborn. Rashek watches, hating me. The cavern lies above, pulsing. My fingers quiver, not from the cold. Tomorrow it will end. I mean, shiver from the cold too. Any points, Dorkus? I've been speaking a lot and reading a lot.
Yes. This is a Kitteh-centric episode, folks, and I couldn't be happier for it.
I could. I'll be fine. Okay.
Gosh, no, that's just so ominous and epic.
And it's the end.
Yeah.
It's the end of the logbook, as Vin is going to learn.
Yup. Vin eagerly turned the page, but the back page of the booklet was empty. She turned it over, rereading the last few lines. Where was the next entry? Sazed must not have finished the last part yet. She stood, sighing as she stretched. She'd finished the entire newest portion of the logbook in one sitting, a feat that surprised her. Oh, she's liking to read now.
Welcome, Vin.
One of us. The gardens of Mansion Renault extended before her, the cultured pathways, broad-limbed trees, and quiet stream creating her favorite reading spot. The sun was low in the sky, and it was beginning to get chilly. She wound her way up the path toward the mansion, despite the chill evening. She could barely imagine a place like the one the Lord Ruler described. She had seen snow on some distant peaks, but she had rarely seen it fall, and even then it was usually just nicey slush. To experience that much snow day after day, to be in danger of having it fall upon you in great crushing avalanches, part of her wished that she could visit such places, no matter how dangerous. Though the logbook didn't describe the Lord Ruler's entire journey, some of the marvels it did include, the ice fields to the north, the Great Black Lake, and the terrace waterfalls, sounded amazing.
You paused there. Are there points that you would like to make?
Look, if Vin is the hero of ages, then she's probably going to have to travel to those places. Now, what they'll look like after 1,000 years of ash, who's to say? But you might get your wish, Vin.
Yeah, be careful what you wish for. But also, it just speaks to her adventurous side. As much as she's dealt with fear a lot of her life, she's like, well, that would be cool. It's something new. I'm open to new experiences. So,
she has come so far since page 1.
Indeed. If only he'd put in more detail about what things look like. So I wrote there, right? And it just made me remember like how we felt about Brandon Sanderson not talking about the food enough.
Yes.
It's like, hey, I wish she put more explanation in. So like even she's reading this thing that's, like non-fiction, where she's like, hey, you should have described stuff more. So it was just like it was relatable.
Yeah. The Lord Ruler spent far too much time worrying, though admittedly she was beginning to feel an odd sort of familiarity with him through his words. She found it hard to associate the person in her mind with the dark creature that had caused so much death. What had occurred at the Well of Ascension? What could have changed him so drastically? She had to know. She reached the mansion and went searching for Sazed. She was back to wearing dresses. It felt odd to be seen in trousers by anyone but the crew members. She smiled at Lord Renault's interior steward as she passed, eagerly climbing the main entryway stairs and seeking out the library. Sazed wasn't inside. His small desk sat empty, the lamp extinguished, the inkwell empty. Vin frowned in annoyance.
Wherever he is, he'd better be working on the translation.
She went back down the stairs, asking after Sazed, and a maid directed her to the main kitchen. Vin frowned, making her way down to the pack alley.
Getting himself a snack, perhaps?
She found Sazed standing among a small group of servants, pointing toward a list on the table and speaking in a low voice. He didn't notice Vin as she entered.
Sazed?
Yes, Mistress Willette?
What are you doing?
I am seeing to Lord Renault's food stores, Mistress. Though I have been assigned to assist you, I am still his steward and have duties to attend to when I am not otherwise occupied.
Are you going to get back to the translation soon?
Okay, so reading that, my first thought was, did she just say that in front of all the
Exactly.
other servants?
I was like, okay, look, you could explain it away and be like, they're doing scholarly things. These are noble people. They do scholarly things, and what do we know about it? So you could kind of get away with that, because he's like, you're my steward and you're my historian kind of guy, and whatever, nerd out for me. So that can kind of go away. But yeah, my immediate thought was, I don't want to have to put that into thought. I don't want to have to wonder about whether this is risky information. And
Right.
and then we get a bit worse. It gets more. They're kind of assuming in this first interaction, very much so, that it's like, oh, they're not gonna think too much about it.
Right.
But this could get, like, if there is a spy in their midst,
And
that
we
is
know
important.
they purposefully let a few in.
Yeah, like that is information that could get back to the wrong people. Oh, they're translating something. Well, wow.
Right.
Yeah, and then it's like, okay, well, oh, translation, okay, is Sazed a keeper? That whole thing, like, it is risky information. I agree.
What could a nobleman be translating?
Yeah, especially for, say, Ellen's dad. Like, he is in search of new things and legends and things like that. He is very curious about that sort of stuff, so he keeps an ear out for it. If he's learning that there are translations happening, like, you would assume that, all the knowledge that is allowed is there. There's no need to translate anything. So
Right.
hearing of something being translated would definitely perk up somebody's, Lord Venture's ears. Definitely.
Right.
So agreed.
And
Stealth,
yeah,
please.
now we are coming off the backs of many balls in which they were name dropping Kelsier. So it's like, okay, this is perhaps another one of those things happening. But then Sazed's gonna cautiously glance at the servants shortly. So they know they shouldn't be doing it. But it certainly does speak to Vin's sudden interest and excitement for knowing what happens.
Yeah, she's not thinking. She's eager. She's so eager that she's not thinking about the consequences. She's just like, hey, get back to work though,
Right.
because I want the ending.
Exactly. And there is something very infectious and endearing about her wanting to know what happens.
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Definitely endearing and relatable, because we're like, we have the same. Okay. Every every epigraph, we're like, so I'm with you on this. But
Oh, translation, mistress. It is finished.
where's the last part then?
I gave it to you.
No, you didn't. This part ends the night before they go into the cabin.
That is the end, mistress. That is as far as the logbook went.
What? But
Sazed glanced at the other servants. We should speak of these things in private, I think. He gave them a few more instructions, pointing at the list, then nodded for Vin to join him as he made his way out the back kitchen exit and into the side gardens.
Note here, like we've just spoken about, they need to be more cautious. But Sazed, honey, saying we need to speak about this in private is like saying, hey, we're saying important things here. By the way, whatever you just heard, think about it more seriously than you might have been thinking about it before, because I've said we should speak about it in private. And also, if you
Yep.
want to follow us and listen to our conversation, I'm also going to alert you that this is a conversation I don't want you to listen to. So, you know what? The fact is, this has been a consistent point throughout. It's not the writing; it's the characters. It's a flaw in the characters, I would say.
Right. Because
Yeah,
Sazed could have easily said something like, we can discuss this at your next history lesson, or
exactly.
something like that.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking when I'm like, really? Like I put exclamation points around that. I said, like you're a smart boy, but you too, like,
Yeah.
and also like you picked it up. You're almost there, but you also didn't do the deception thing. You just like,
Now,
oh,
some people are more adept at
mm,
deception. Some people can more easily come up with a lie. Ham being the example of someone who wouldn't be able to come up with a lie so easily.
Breeze on the
Um,
other hand.
Whereas Breeze could probably rattle off 100 untrue things without thinking too hard. So there's an interesting thing or element there, but at the same time, Vin and Sazed, I think, should be a touch more practiced at being able to glibly speak in code with each other.
Yeah, like by now, especially. It's a thread we've followed throughout the story of these two just blurting stuff out. And I wonder if there's going to be a payoff. I wonder.
Yeah. Oh man. He gave them a few more instructions, pointing at the list, then nodded for Vin to join him as he made his way out the back kitchen exit and into the side gardens. Vin stood dumbfounded for a moment, then hurried out to join him.
It can't end like that, Saz. We don't know what's happened.
We can surmise, I think, Saz had said, walking down the garden path. The eastern gardens weren't as lavish as the ones Vin frequented, and were instead made up of smooth brown grass and the occasional shrub.
Surmise what?
Well, the Lord Ruler must have done what was necessary to save the world, for we are still here.
I suppose. But then he took the power for himself. That must have been what happened. He couldn't resist the temptation to use the power selfishly. But why isn't there another entry? Why wouldn't he speak further of his accomplishments?
And then I had an image
Mm.
of Indiana Jones and the knight who's guarding the Holy Grail, just like forever there protecting it. And then I imagined the Lord Ruler like living at the Well of Ascension forever, forgotten, just constantly saving the world every 3 days. And it's like, was that an option? Could he have? Because he was saying how he wanted anonymity.
Mhm.
Certainly, anonymity in a cave forever with a well. That's, I mean, that's no, that almost seems more of a curse.
Well, because I'm also just thinking, I don't think it was an option in that he needs atium, right? Unless he's like, hey guys, just keep bringing me atium here. Or is
I mean,
atium just only for his power, as in like his
I mean,
power over the people?
it could be exactly what the nobles think and the Ska think, and that the adium is literally just for him to maintain a monetary
Hmm.
monopoly on the world. And maybe he doesn't need it, and he just has to do whatever process he's doing to hold off the deepness.
Mm. What do you think? I think atium's more important though.
It is a very, very big ask to expect someone to live in a cave for all of eternity, for
Fighting
all
this
of
battle.
immortality,
Hmm.
to put off the end of the world and be removed from society forever. I mean, there's a reason that for generations, for many, many years, exile was considered a considerable punishment, being
Oh,
removed from society.
Solitary
So
confinement is like one of the worst things you can do to a person. Yeah.
yeah, so you almost can't blame the Lord Ruler after becoming immortal, even despite him saying he wishes he still had anonymity. You almost can't blame him from wanting to be in the world again, and then
Yeah.
maybe it is just such that with such tremendous power, becoming the ruler of the world is like the next logical step.
It's like I'm the only one. That was part of the logbook where he's like, okay, so I'll save the world. Will I then resist the temptation to just take it? One of the biggest themes or struggles we've got here with the Lord Ruler is he is a morsel become immortal, right? With a Christ figure, it's that is supposed to be God himself in any case. So the goodness of Christ is supposed to be you can trust Christ. It's all he is part of the all-knowing, all good God, right? Whereas here it's a mere mortal with mortal failings, not Christ-like qualities, mortal failings, taking on something that no man should hold and no woman. um,
Hmm.
Taking that on and then being corrupted by it. But that is because it kind of goes back to original sin, kind of, oh, we're so corrupt from the beginning in any case. Humans are easily corruptible. So he's gone through something inevitable, in that he's mortal, he's got immortality, and immortality can only just spoil a mortal. That kind of thinking is what I'm feeling.
Interesting. And who's to say that he named himself a god? What I mean, if you knew that there was an immortal being, might you not question
Hmm.
how that would come to be? And we know that at the very least, very many nations of this world already believe him to be the hero of ages. If he does save the world, and if he does end up being immortal, who's to say that it isn't these many nations who go on to say that, oh my gosh, he became a god?
Yeah, but we would think, well, he's powerful enough to stand against it, hopefully,
Right.
instead of embrace
That's
it.
what you would. That's what you would hope. But then you get,
Mm.
the life of Brian
Yes.
situation going on.
Yeah. I'm not the Messiah. I suppose. But then he took the power for himself. That must have been what happened. He couldn't resist the temptation to use the power selfishly. But why isn't there another entry? Why wouldn't he speak further of his accomplishments?
Perhaps the power changed him too much. Or maybe he simply didn't feel a need to record anymore. He had accomplished his goal and had become immortal as a side benefit. Keeping a journal for one's posterity becomes somewhat redundant when one is going to live forever, I think.
It's a very unsatisfying end to a story, says it.
Be careful, mistress. Become too fond of reading and you may turn into a scholar.
Not if all the books I read are going to end like this one.
Ah, gosh, I like this, Finn. This is cute, Vin. This is spunky, Vin.
Cute Vin with Sazed. Heartwarming
Yeah.
moments.
If it is of any comfort, you are not the only one who is disappointed by the logbook's contents. It didn't contain much that Master Kelsier could use. Certainly there was nothing about the 11th metal. I feel somewhat guilty, since I am the one who benefited most from the book.
But there wasn't very much about the terrorist religion either.
Not much. But truly and regretfully, not much is far more than we previously knew. I am only worried that I will not have an opportunity to pass this information on. I have sent a translated copy of the logbook to a location where my brethren and sister keepers will know to check. It would be a pity if this new knowledge were to die with me.
It won't.
Oh? Has my lady suddenly become an optimist?
Has my terrorism suddenly become a smart mouth?
I love it. Great dialogue.
I know, it's cute.
He always has been, I think. It is one of the things that made him a poor steward, at least in the eyes of most of his masters.
Then they must have been fools.
So I was inclined to think, mistress. We should return to the mansion. We should not be seen out in the gardens when the mists arrive, I think.
I'm just going to go back out into them.
There are many of the ground staffs that do not know you are Mistborn, mistress. It would be a good secret to keep, I think.
I know. Let's go back then.
A wise plan. They walked for a few moments, enjoying the eastern garden's subtle beauty. The grasses were kept carefully trimmed, and they had been arranged in pleasant tiers, the occasional shrubbery giving accent. The southern garden was far more spectacular with its brooks, trees, and exotic plants, but the eastern garden had its own peace, the serenity of simplicity.
Sazed,
Yes, mistress?
it's all going to change, isn't it?
What specifically do you mean?
Everything. Even if we aren't all dead in a year, the crew members will be off working on other projects. Ham will probably be back with his family. Docs and Calcia will be planning some new escapade. Clubs will be renting his shop to another crew. Even these gardens that we've spent so much money on, they'll belong to someone else.
What you say is likely. So if things go well, perhaps the Skull Rebellion will be ruling Luthadel by this time next year.
Maybe. But even still, things will change.
That is the nature of all life, mistress. The world must change.
I know. I just wish. Well, I actually like my life now, Sazed. I like spending time with the crew, and I like training with Kelsia. I love going to balls with Ellen on the weekends, love walking in these gardens with you. I don't want these things to change. I don't want my life to go back to the way it was a year ago.
Oh, this spoke to me so much.
Oh, I know.
This,
Okay, then.
I just, I have to take a moment to really appreciate that. There have been times in my life where I have felt that.
Yeah,
And
things. They're like, don't. Oh, stop! I don't change this. Don't change this. Hold on. Yeah, because you know
Yeah.
things are going to change, and changes can be exciting, but most of the time it's very scary.
Yeah,
Um,
and it's just so well expressed and it's so well earned. We know what Vin has been through
mm.
and what all of this means to her.
Yeah, even just by the sheer, like I wrote longest Vin after this paragraph that comes next. Even the sheer, like just the flow of words that is coming out of her. We haven't heard her speak this much to people. And that just shows how much she feels. It's overwhelming her to the point that she just has to talk to someone about it. She has to tell them everything because she's just dreading this big change. She's dreading this loss. And that kind of goes back to it goes forward to what they talk about in terms of the religion that comes up. But I'll note that when we get there.
It doesn't have to, mistress. It could change for the better.
It won't. It's starting already. Kelsia has hinted that my training is almost finished. When I practice in the future, I'll have to do it alone. As for Illand, he doesn't even know that I'm Scar, and it's my job to try and destroy his family. Even if House Venture doesn't fall by my hand, others will bring it down. I know Shanna L'Oreal is planning something, and I haven't been able to discover anything about her schemes. That's only the beginning, though. We face the final empire. We'll probably fail, to be honest. I don't see how things could possibly turn out otherwise. We'll fight, we'll do some good, but we won't change much. And those of us who survive will spend the rest of our lives running from the Inquisitors. Everything's going to change, Sazed, and I can't stop it.
Then, mistress, simply enjoy what you have. The future will surprise you, I think.
Maybe.
You just need to have hope, mistress. Perhaps you've earned a little bit of good fortune. There was a group of people before the Ascension known as the Astalsi. They claimed that each person was born with a certain finite amount of ill luck, and so, when an unfortunate event happened, they thought themselves blessed. Thereafter, their lives could only get better.
Sounds a bit simple minded to me.
I do not believe so. Why, the Astalthi were rather advanced. They mixed religion with science quite profoundly. They thought that different colors were indications of different kinds of fortune and were particularly detailed in their descriptions of light and color. Indeed, it's from them that we get some of our best ideas as to what things might have looked like before the Ascension. They had a scale of colors and used it to describe the sky of the deepest blue and various plants in their shades of green. Regardless, I find their philosophies regarding luck and fortune enlightened. To them, a poor life was a sign of fortune to come. It might be a good fit for you, mistress. You could benefit from the knowledge that your luck cannot always be bad. that was really interesting to me, bringing back luck, because in
Mm-hmm.
her very first chapter,
Mm-hmm.
her whole thing was my luck.
Yeah, and you could use it up, and you could, yeah. That actually, I didn't even make that jump. That's such an obvious jump. I think I was too busy just feeling her feelings instead of looking at the
Mm,
meta of it. That is a good point. She has actually used luck quantifiably before.
yes,
That's how she conceptualized it before. Like,
exactly.
it's so good.
It's so good.
Hmm. And it just also just for me, like maybe also what I was spending a lot of time on in my brain was, the colors and things like that, and colors related to fortune. So like everything is brown and dull compared to vibrant green. It's like they're in the bad luck phase of the world. So has the world itself also earned brighter colors? That's what I was busy pondering on, just enjoying
Mm.
that thematic thing. But oh, yours is better. The luck thing is really great catch. I don't know. I mean, if your bad luck were limited, wouldn't your good luck be limited too? Every time something good happened, I'd be worried about using it all up. So there is exactly it happening, that she has had it quantifiable. She's had it used up before. Yes, it's replenished, although she doesn't really know how. That's what it's been. She never just said, "Oh, I've got this endless thing of luck." She never went, "Oh, it comes back after a while." She was like, "There's just a little bit that I can use, and I need to use it properly." Also, just I put here the note psychology, or just her psychology. This is the pointing back thing I wanted to talk about, where this is what she's at. She's had all this luck. She's actually had this good fortune because she's enjoying her life currently. And the first thing that she thinks about is using it all up. She's worried about losing it. That's what happens when you're used to not having anything. Once you do have something, one of your biggest fears then is losing it again.
Do you
That's part of,
think
yeah.
do you think her questionable decision later on in the chapter is connected to this not wanting things to change?
Yeah, definitely. She doesn't want, it's kind of a stagnant move. She's neither moving against Ellen's house, nor, okay, I mean, it is, you can count it as a step against the crew because she's not telling them something very important.
Do
Yeah,
you think it's about wanting to protect Ellen, or do you think it's about not wanting things to change yet?
both. I think they can both be around. That's why she doesn't want to things to change, and Ellen gets into even more trouble. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
trying to keep everything back keeps everything from changing, and part of her fear of change is because it's going to affect Ellen. We're basically trying to bring down the whole society that has lifted Ellen up.
But as Vin learns later on in the chapter, there is a time factor. There is a ticking time bomb. The Inquisitors are still out there looking for her.
Yeah, there isn't. Yeah, and she doesn't want to make moves for that. It's just there's so much that goes into that decision, which is why, look, it's not like, what, why would she do that? It's just, we know it's a big decision that she made there,
Yeah.
and we'll get to it.
I suppose that depends on your viewpoint, mistress.
How can you be so optimistic? You and Kelsey are both.
I don't know, mistress. Perhaps our lives have been easier than yours, or perhaps we are simply more foolish. Vin fell silent. Did you have something to say?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, oh, I'm not too sure that their lives have been easier than hers.
No,
But
I get
yes,
the
I do.
sense everyone's life is very, very hard.
Yeah, everyone's is, yeah. So I'm just like, nice try, Sazed. That's pretty funny, but simply we're more foolish. I love that. I love this whole interaction.
Yeah. They walked for a short time longer, weaving their way back toward the building, but not rushing the walk.
Sazed, when you saved me that night in the rain, you used Ferrokemi, didn't you?
Indeed, the Inquisitor was very focused on you, and I was able to sneak up behind him, then hit him with a stone. I had grown many times stronger than an ordinary man, and my blow threw him into the wall, breaking several of his bones, I suspect.
Is that it?
Wait, didn't Marsh say at some point that there was a new Inquisitor?
He didn't say that there is a new one. It's that they
Or
do
one
get
was
new ones.
replaced?
I don't think
Oh,
he said that one was replaced. He just says that they do replace them. I
okay.
don't remember that there. I could be wrong, duh, but I don't recall because I think we would have made a big stink about that. We would have been like, "Whoa!"
Yeah, it
Um,
does sound like
inst-
something we'd have stunk about.
we would make a big stink and think about. Okay, I think because if I remember correctly about the stink we did make around that was, "Wow, they're replaceable, they're killable." That was what we were talking about. I think
Right.
you would have at least put together that Sazed must have taken one out if they said that.
You give me way too much credit.
It's deserved. It makes sense.
Okay, well, never mind, because I thought there might have been a connection between that and this, but if that didn't happen, then this wouldn't be connected.
But still, he broke. Listen, she goes, "Is that it?" I'm like, "Bruh, he broke several bones of an inquisitor." Okay, I don't
Yeah,
think Ham could do that.
no.
So, yeah, I'm like, she's like, "Is that it?" Like, sorry for you, Vin. I wrote there, "It was spectacular." Is that it?
You sound disappointed, mistress. You expected something more spectacular, I suppose?
It's just you've been so quiet about Ferrokemi. That makes it seem more mystical, I guess.
There is really little to hide from you, mistress. The truly unique power of feruchemy, the ability to store and recover memories, you must surely have already guessed. The rest of the powers are no different, really, from the powers granted to you by pewter and tin. A few of them are a little more odd, making a feruchemist heavier or changing his age, but they offer little martial application.
Age? You could make yourself younger.
Not really, mistress. Remember, a feruchemist must draw his powers from his own body. He could, for instance, spend a few weeks with his body aged to the point that it felt and looked 10 years older than he really was. Then he could withdraw that age to make him seem 10 years younger for an equal amount of time. However, in feruchemy, there must be a balance.
I just want to ask you about that because before you were struggling with the how the hell does it all work? So we get a bit more insights into how it's working about you need to balance it out. So you're not taking age away from your end life. It's about all about where you're at currently. Your body it's balancing what you have available to you
Right.
at that time.
Yeah, this is
It's a nice
very
explanation.
clear.
Yeah, I like it. Does the metal you use matter, like in Alamancy?
Most certainly. The metal determines what can be stored.
Sazed, can I have a bit of your metal?
My metal, mistress?
Something you've used as a ferrochemical store. I want to try burning it. Maybe that will let me use some of its power.
Sazed frowned curiously.
Has anyone ever tried it before?
I'm sure someone must have, but I honestly can't think of a specific example. Perhaps if I were to search my memory copper mines.
Why not just let me try it now? Do you have something made from one of the basic metals? Something you haven't stored anything too valuable in?
Sazed considered, then reached up to one of his oversized earlobes and undid an earring much like the one Vin wore. He handed the earring's tiny backing, used to hold it in place, to Vin. This is pure pewter, mistress. I've stored a moderate amount of strength in it. Vin nodded, swallowing the tiny stud. Okay, to be honest, my first thought here was, ew, gross. Eating an earring thing. That can't be
Ear skin,
sanitary.
lovely, sanitary. Yeah. She's just like,
Yeah.
for science! Gulp. Yeah.
Oh man, that reminds me of the young Arya chapters where she eats worms. Um,
Mm.
actually, yeah. You sent me a message on Discord, and I forgot to mention it in the last chapisode, and I think you forgot to as well.
Okay.
You had wondered if, well, would you like to say it?
Yeah, I had wondered if Vin had some, or Vin, or okay, so I did say Vin is a ferochemist. I was like, oh, what's the theory about Vin being a ferochemist? Because or the hero of ages, basically, is what I was on about. But the particular message I sent to Dorcas was Vin ferochemist kind of thing. And I was like, I didn't want to think too hard about it because there were lots of reasons. I was like, look, it's over the top. But I was just like, oh, let's put that together. That's a nice fancy we can go and follow for a little bit. And we kind of see that that's not the case here, but you can see that they are related powers. They not
Mhm.
overlap, but they use the same sort of essence. So I'm very excited about that. What it does make me think of is the Lord Ruler might have ferochemy and allomancy, which I think we've kind of said before.
Right. Well,
Hmm.
the interesting thing here that I was thinking about is the short of what we are about to read is that she can feel the strength, but she cannot access the strength. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
wondering if she can do that because maybe she has the ability to become a ferochemist. Whereas, what if Kelsier didn't have that ability, and therefore, if he the
Yeah.
tried it, would he be able to sense it as well? Basically, I'm saying we need to do more science now.
More science, yes. Give the other earring back. Like, look, they probably match. So give the other one to Calcia. You're so right because this might not just be a it's a mist. It's because she's a mistborn. She can feel it. That might be something. That might be part of why she can sense more than Calcia can when it comes to the Lord.
Right.
So, oh yeah, maybe my theory has more legs than I thought. It is a little
And
bit
then,
more like a mist wraith. Yeah.
yeah. And then maybe I was wondering again about the stud of hers. Is that
Mm-hmm.
a store?
Of some sort. Yes, I did think of that last time. Mm-hmm. Thank you for bringing that up. I don't know when I was supposed to bring that up, but that does make me. I'm like, look, they're both earrings, and we focus on both of them a lot. And the mom put this earring in her, like she pierced her with the earring as a baby. Like, what was that? Did she kill her own sister to
Hmm.
gain herself her own life? Hmm. She stored her life in the. No, I'm kidding. I'm just,
Oh
I'm
shit.
just fan fictioning all over the place. Sorry, but I'm just saying, like, we can ask. I'm getting the yarn out and things like that, just to add to our huge pile of conspiracy theories.
Add it to the list. Vin nodded, swallowing the tiny stud. She felt at her allomantic reserve, but the stud's metal didn't seem to do anything different. She tentatively burned pewter. Anything?
No, I don't.
She trailed off. There was something there, something different. What is it, mistress? Sazed asked, uncharacteristic eagerness sounding in his voice.
I can feel the power, Saz. It's faint, far beyond my grasp, but I swear there's another reserve within me. One that only appears when I'm burning your metal.
It's faint, you say? Like you can see a shadow of the reserve but can't access the power itself?
How do you know?
That's what it feels like when you try to use another ferochemist's metals, mistress. I should have suspected this would be the result. You cannot access the power because it does not belong to you.
Oh.
Do not be too disappointed, mistress. If Allomancers could steal strength from my people, it would already be known. But it was a clever thought. The carriage has already arrived. We are late for the meeting, I think. Vin nodded, and they hurried their pace toward the mansion.
Just going back to the theory thing, yeah. They both miss it as well. They both go, oh, well, they should actually, you're so right. They should go, hello. She can, she can access this in some way. She actually has a sense that a ferochemist would have. But they both assume, oh, well, yeah, it's just, it's allomancers. So we
Right.
need, this should be still, like, they should want to for science immediately. But they're both like, oh, well, I guess. It's like, wait a second, that's quite a thing. You need to do more tests. And then also just I put the word theory there, of course, because of the ferochemy theory, but then also the theory of you cannot access the power because it does not belong to you. Something about that resonates with the whole deepness situation that might come back.
Hmm.
That's just all I just wanted to note that for us to remember or not, depending on what we come across in the next chapters.
The other question that I want to know is, can feruchemy be taught, or is it biological and just for the Terrace people?
Yeah, that's what I would think. It's biological, but then how did Vin have?
Or the Lord Ruler?
Hmm, yeah, it could be just much more rare in normal people, in general
Hmm.
people, in Scar.
Hmm.
Ah! Every single chapter, we're always like, tell us more about the world. I love it. I love it. It's very good. So good. So
So
good.
good.
Okay.
And thus ends the Vin POV. We now get into the Kelsier POV. Funny, Kelsier thought to himself as he slipped across the darkened courtyard before Mansion Renault. I have to sneak into my own house as if I were attacking some nobleman's keep. There was no avoiding it, however, not with his reputation. Kelsier the thief had been distinctive enough. Kelsier the rebellion instigator and Ska spiritual leader was even more infamous. Ska spiritual leader? Hmm.
Hmm.
That didn't, of course, keep him from spreading his nightly chaos. He just had to be more careful. More and more families were pulling out of the city, and the powerful houses were growing increasingly paranoid. In a way that made manipulating them easier, but sneaking around their keeps was getting very dangerous. In comparison, Mansion Renault was virtually unprotected. There were guards, but no mistings. Renault had to keep a low profile. Too many Allomancers would make him stand out. Kelsier kept to the shadows, carefully making his way around to the east side of the building. Then he pushed off a coin and guided himself up onto Renault's own balcony. Kelsier landed lightly, then peeked through the glass balcony doors. The drapes were shut, but he could pick out Dachshund, Vin, Sazed, Ham, and Breeze standing around Renault's desk. Renault himself sat in the far corner of the room, staying out of the proceedings. His contract included playing the part of Lord Renault, but he didn't wish to be involved in the plan any more than he had to. Ooh.
Hmm.
There's a
He
contract.
his contract. Well, is it a yeah? Is it some sort of blood pact contract or what?
Interesting. I had
But
assumed
also,
it was just a normal paper contract. I'll pay
mhm,
you this much if you do this type of a thing. Uh,
no, that's definitely it. I just brought that as like conspiracy, tinfoil hat kind of thing.
yes. And then I have to wonder if Tensoon has a contract or if he's bound by family.
Yeah. What do you pay? What does one pay a conjurer? Hmm.
Was Condra Renault the Renault Condra until Renault died?
Yeah, we've also one of the notes actually that just reminds me is with regard to Condra, clearly the noble people use them as spies, but ain't
Mm-hmm.
nobody using them as noble people. I don't know. I don't think that might not be an orthodox use of a Condra because maybe people don't trust the Condra that much. But then again, you're gonna trust them to go and sneak into other houses and not blab on you. So, I wonder
Hmm.
what the nature of the contract is. There are
Agreed.
creatures. Hmm. Tell us more about them.
And why doesn't he want to be any more involved in this than he has to be? Because it seems like he's been fairly involved thus far. Then again,
Hmm.
we know that he was uncomfortable regarding the how he came to be Renault.
Hmm.
Hmm.
He's and no, but like, yeah, what are his motivations in this? Because he doesn't. He's not like, oh yes, let's overthrow the Lord Ruler. I'm here with you, freedom fighting. Woo. He's more just like, okay, here's my job. That's kind of what Kelsey is making us think here or feel. It's just like he's just here to do his job. So it would be great to have some sort of insight into the motivations of a Condra one day.
Indeed.
More things I don't know. Thanks.
Kelsier shook his head. It would be far too easy for an assassin to get in here. I'll have to make sure that Vin continues to sleep at Club's shop. He wasn't worried about Renault. The Condra's nature was such that he didn't need to fear an assassin's blade.
More stuff. Huh? Okay, I guess Condra
Yeah.
just live forever, or they got extra senses, or thanks.
And
I don't
again,
know.
it makes me think about this epigraph
Mm.
where he was attacked by a mist creature. Like, could you
Mm-hmm.
imagine if you're a Khandra and you possess a body and then someone knifes the body and then just this misty essence leaving the body and inhabiting.
It stabs you back.
Yeah. And then takes
you.
Yeah. It's possible. Kelsier tapped lightly on the door and Doxson strolled over, pulling it open. And he makes his stunning entry. Doxson snorted, shutting the doors. You're truly a wonder to behold, Cal, particularly the soot stains on your knees. I had to do some crawling tonight. There's an unused drainage ditch that passes right under Keep Lacal's defensive wall. You'd think they'd get that patched up. I doubt they need worry, Bree said from beside the desk. Most of you Mistborn are probably too proud to crawl. I'm surprised you were willing to do it yourself. Too proud to crawl? Nonsense! Why, I'd say that we Mistborn are too proud not to be humble enough to go crawling about in a dignified manner. I chuckled.
I loved that. I was like, yes. Of course. That makes perfect sense, actually.
100%.
Thanks, Kel.
Doxson frowned, approaching the desk. Kel, that didn't make any sense. We Mistborn need not make sense, Kelsier said haughtily. What's this? From your brother, Doxson said, pointing at a large map laid across the desk. It arrived this afternoon in the hollow of a broken table leg that the Canton of Inquisition hired clubs to repair.
Ooh, mine says Canton of Orthodoxy.
Interesting.
Are they this? Ooh. What yours was? Of Inquisition.
Canton of Inquisition.
Maybe it was a which one is it supposed to be?
Well, Marsh was brought into the dangerous one.
Yeah, which is Inquisition.
That's what I thought.
Yeah. I guess. Okay, whatever. Interesting. And then, sorry, I didn't even realize the next line was.
Interesting. It's a list of the soothing stations, I assume? Indeed. It's quite the discovery. I've never seen such a detailed, carefully drawn map of the city. Why, it only shows every one of the 34 soothing stations, but also locations of Inquisitor activity, as well as places that the different cantons are concerned about. I haven't had the opportunity to associate much with your brother, but I must say that the man is obviously a genius. It's almost hard to believe he's related to Kel, eh? Doxson said with a smile. He had a notepad before him and was in the process of making a list of all the soothing stations. Marsh might be the genius, but I'm the handsome one. What are these numbers? Inquisitor raids and dates. You'll notice that Vin's crew house is listed. How in the world did Marsh manage to steal a map like this? He didn't. There was a note with the map. Apparently the High Prelans gave it to him. They've been very impressed with Marsh and want him to look over the city and recommend locations for new soothing stations. It seems that the Ministry is a bit worried about the house war, and they want to send out some extra soothers to try to keep things under control. We're supposed to send the map back inside the repaired table leg. Once we are done this evening, I shall endeavor to copy it in as short a time as possible. So, whoa, Marsh taking a big risk here.
Yeah, definitely. And it did make me go, whoa, Marsh has really gone up the ranks really, really quickly. And that's suspicious, but I don't think that the Canton would feed him this information. I don't feel like if they knew if they knew about him, that's how they would deal with him. They would just kill him. Otherwise, they wouldn't try and use him to mislead whoever is plotting. So it is genuine. Because the paranoia struck me. I was like, wait a second, why is it so easy for him?
Right. Mm-hmm. But now we more or less have a hit list, I think, for all of the crew leaders and rebellion squads to hit up when the time is right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also a bit of a timing thing. Now it makes timing crucial. I mean, literally, he says that.
And memorize it as well, thereby making it part of every keeper's records, Kelsier thought. The day when you'll stop memorizing and start teaching is coming soon, Saz. I hope your people are ready. I like that line.
Yeah, very positive, very, it's coming. Very
Very
cool.
determined.
Mm-hmm.
Kelsier turned, studying the map. It was as impressive as Breeze had said. Indeed, Marsh must have taken an extremely great risk in sending it away, perhaps a foolhardy risk even, but the information it contained. We'll have to get this back quickly, tomorrow morning if possible.
What is this?
Vin asked, quietly leaning across the large map and pointing. She wore a noblewoman's dress, a pretty one-piece garment that was only slightly less ornate than a ball gown. Kelsier smiled. He could remember a time when Vin had looked frighteningly awkward in a dress, but she seemed to have taken an increasing liking to them. She still didn't move quite like a noble-born lady. She was graceful, but it was the dexterous grace of a predator, not the deliberate grace of a courtly lady. Still, the gown seemed to fit Vin now, in a way that had nothing at all to do with tailoring. Oh gee, what could that mean, I wonder?
The meaning of it all. Ponder
I
it.
did like the comparison of the dexterous grace of a predator versus a
Mhm.
noble-born lady. That was
Yeah,
neat.
she's not clumsy.
Ah, Mare, you always wanted a daughter you could teach to walk the line between noblewoman and thief. They would have liked each other. They both had a hidden streak of unconventionality. Perhaps if his wife were still alive, she could have taught Finn things about pretending to be a noblewoman that even Sazed didn't know.
That goes back to one of your things where you're like, oh, we don't have a woman to teach Vin noblewoman things. So Sazed might know about court and what the basics are, but Mare would have known much more. And if we get a little bit more of insight into Mare, walk the line between what noblewoman and thief. So look, we still don't know if she was noblewoman become thief or thief become noblewoman. Yeah, wish we could know.
Me too.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, if Mare were still alive, I wouldn't be doing any of this. I wouldn't dare.
Look, one of these Inquisitor dates is new. It's marked as yesterday.
Doxson shot a glance at Kelsier. We would have had to tell her eventually anyway. That was Theron's crew. An Inquisitor hit them yesterday evening. Vin paled. Should I recognize that name?
Theron's crew was part of the team that was trying to dupe the Ministry with Kamen. That means they probably still have my trail.
Oh shit.
Ooh.
Tick.
Gulp.
Tick. Tick. Tick.
Talk. Sorry, we needed a talk. Sorry. Okay.
The Inquisitor recognized her that night when we infiltrated the palace. He wanted to know who her father was. It's fortunate that those inhuman things make the nobility uncomfortable. Otherwise, we'd have to worry about sending her to balls.
Hello. Okay, so look, cool. Thanks for giving us an idea of, yeah, good. You kind of covered that base. That's why we don't have the Inquisitors like all up in her business from the balls, because they're not usually around. But going back to the theory of, Vin's biology, whether it's biological, that she's a ferrochemist or something. Well, what's with her lineage? Why do we need to make sure? Look, I know that part of the things the Inquisitors do is get rid of Mistborn and Mistings or whatever that are not actually noble born. But thinking about this, who was her father, does call into question what is her lineage that could give her this power that I believe she has.
Yeah. And Clubs is next, right? She went from Kamen to Theron. Well, she wasn't really with Theron exactly, but like there's no one else left.
Yeah. But then again, or maybe her trail did kind of go to Theron in some way, but yeah. I don't know. I don't know if it's her or if it's just that they're just going for all the crews they can find because they're like, okay, she's from a thieving crew. That's where they're looking for her.
But it wouldn't be Clubs next. It would be Kamen, then Theron, then Marsh, because they used Theron's crew to get Marsh into the Ministry.
Oh, ooh. So Marsh's time might be up at some point. No, they've killed them now. So, haha, they got rid of the evidence. Thanks.
Well, we don't know what they got out of Theron's crew.
Oh, we don't. Oh, God. The paranoia. Theron's crew. Was it like last time?
No survivors. There was an uncomfortable silence, and Vin looked visibly sick. Poor kid. All right, how are we going to use this map? It has some ministry notes on house defenses. Those will be useful. There doesn't appear to be any pattern in the Inquisitor strikes, however. They probably just go where the information leads them. We'll want to refrain from being too active near soothing stations. Fortunately, Clubs' shop isn't close to any specific station. Most of them are in the slums. We need to do more than simply avoid the stations. We need to be ready to take them out. If we do, we risk playing our hand recklessly. But think of the damage it would do. Marsh said there were at least 3 soothers and a seeker at every one of those stations. That's 130 ministry mistings. They must have recruited across the entire central dominance to gather those kinds of numbers. If we were to take them all out at once, we'd never be able to kill that many ourselves. We could if we used the rest of our army. We've got them stashed throughout the slums. I have a better idea. We can hire other thieving crews. If we had 10 crews, each assigned to take out 3 stations, we could clear the city of ministry soothers and seekers in barely a few hours. We'd have to discuss timing, though. Breeze is right. Killing that many obligatos in one evening means making a major commitment. It won't take the Inquisitors long to retaliate. Kelsier nodded. You're right, Docs. Timing will be vital. Would you look into it? Find some appropriate crews, but wait until we decide on a time before giving them the location of the soothing stations. Doxson nodded. Good. Speaking of our soldiers, Ham, how are things going with them? Better than I expected, actually. They went through training in the caves, and so they're fairly competent, and they consider themselves the more faithful segment of the army since they didn't follow Yedden to battle against your will. Are they the more faithful of the two? It sounds like they're the less faithful. Yes, obviously we like Kelsier more than Yedden, and not going was the smart decision, but if they were soldiers, they, in theory, had an obligation to do what their commander told them to do, right?
Yes, in terms of soldiering, not good soldiers. In terms of followers of religious leader, pretty good. So it depends on what we want them to be.
Interesting.
Yeah, sorry.
And do we want them to be followers of a religious leader, or do we want them to be soldiers, knowing that being soldiers might have got them killed?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. I just like asking the question. Like, as well, just,
because I think the book is trying to frame them as having made the proper choice, the good choice.
Yeah, well, I think that Kelsier, if Kelsier wants to look, anyone that's he's happy that more people survived than could have died. That's good. I mean, not than could have died comparatively. I'm saying
glad for that too.
Yeah, he's glad for that. So that's why we can be really glad about it. We definitely be like, oh, well, those 2,000 people could have died, and we would have been even more angry at Yedden. But now we are supposed to appreciate these ones as people that really care about what Kelsier is doing and will follow Kelsier no matter what, which could become a problem if Kelsier turns dark, and he's got these followers to back him up, and his friends are the only ones that are willing to question him. This is, again, me just going into tinfoil hat regions, trying to figure out what the story could do. Just so I can say, look, I called it out. Just come up with all of the possibilities so I can say that, yes, I knew.
That's a convenient way of looking past the fact that they lost 3/4 of their army in a tactical blunder. They're good men, Breeze, and so were those who died. Don't speak ill of them. Regardless, I worry about hiding the army as we are. It won't be too long before one of the teams gets discovered. That's why none of them know where to find the others. I do want to mention something about the men. I see the importance of sending Hammond to train the soldiers, but honestly, what is the reason for forcing Doxson and myself to go and visit them? The men need to know who their leaders are. If Ham were to become indisposed, someone else would need to take command. Why not you? Just bear with me. It's for the best. And that, I take as confirmation that Kelsier does not expect to live.
Yep. Absolutely. It's like, okay, and I'm just going to smile about it and just don't worry about it. It's like, whoa. Look, I'm glad he's making provisions. He's not just like, I'm invincible and I'm enough to lead everybody. Just that, even if I die, my principles would live on. It's like, no, he's making provisions for leadership to continue. And yeah, well, we'll get to the the line that creeped me out the most.
Rees rolled his eyes. Bear with you. We seem to do an awful lot of that. Anyway, Vin, what news from the nobility? Have you discovered anything useful about House Venture? She hesitated.
No.
Vin. Vin.
That yeah, did you go with the I put exclamation points there. That isn't the line I was talking about that creeped me out. But there it is. That's literally as quickly as she said it. I don't think there's more, but anything useful about House Venture, couldn't she just come up with some little tidbit about like Shan Ilariel? Like her saying no is is as much it's quite obvious. Like there's nothing she could tell
Mm-hmm.
that's really obvious. So you can see, and you can see in Carl's
You,
piece, he's like,
you could even say something like, well, Ellen told me that he feels that House Venture is even more at risk than other houses. Something sort of empty like that.
well, that's not empty enough. I think that actually that would make them. That would be part of. That would be too close to letting something happen or encouraging
Hmm.
the crew to go after House Ventures just to reveal that they're vulnerable. It saying something like, oh well, it's related to. I'm saying just lying wise. Well, it's related to venture and be like, oh well, House Ilariel. I would rather say something like, oh well, House Ilariel might be doing something because Shan Ilariel is this and that, and then let them tell me it's irrelevant. That's a better way to
Gotcha.
lie. But she's a bit honest here in that she just goes no. If you know what I'm saying, it's the most bold faced lie because she's like no, it's like nothing, not like, and I know that deception wise, actually just saying no should be enough. It, like elaborating might make you look guilty too, but this from her in this context, it just doesn't seem right
Mm.
because she does
And I,
offer up. She has in the past offered up irrelevant sort of things, thinking that they could be relevant.
right.
Mm.
Oh man, and I just imagine a dead stare between the two of them.
Hmm. Yeah, it's just very obvious. It's like no, you see what happens.
But the ball next week will be at Cape Venture, right? Dachshund asked. Finn nodded. Kelsier eyed the girl. Would she tell us if she knew? She met his eyes, and he couldn't read a thing in them. Blasted girl's far too experienced a liar. All right. Keep looking.
I will. Hmm. So I don't think Kelsey is fully convinced, but there he's like, "Ah, it could be the truth." So he's not fully convinced, but he's not convinced that she's lying either. He's just like, she's too good a liar, so I don't know if she's lying. Hmm.
Yeah.
And he
Hmm.
could not just guess at what she's keeping behind. So mm.
Hmm.
That would make me no.
Although,
This would just make me more curious. I'd be like, no, she's keeping something. I need to speak
right?
about it. Yeah,
Elaborate, Vin.
yeah.
Vin, what have you learned?
Yeah, is there anything? Nothing? Like, because that he's not pushing her at all. Because yeah, just to me, it just if I noticed, he can notice this. If I noticed that
What?
she didn't protest enough,
Yeah.
then then he would. Like, if anything, he should be just trying to push a little bit more, not just accepting that this could be a lie.
Yeah. Despite his fatigue, Kelsier found sleep elusive that night. Unfortunately, he couldn't go out and roam the hallways. Only certain servants knew he was at the mansion, and he needed to keep a low profile now that his reputation was building. His reputation. He sighed as he leaned against the balcony railing, watching the mists. In a way, the things he did worried even him. The others didn't question him out loud, as per his request, but he could tell that they were still bothered by his growing fame. It's the best way. I may not need all of this, but if I do, I'm going to be glad I went to the trouble. He's got a plan, and it's not the 11th medal, I swear.
Yeah, yeah. That's we did talk about that, about whether this is necessary what he's done, and I do seem to remember. Maybe I'm just being very charitable to us, but I do seem to remember we were talking about whether he uses their help or not. He uses this support or not. It's better to have it. So yeah, he's got something. brewing, and I don't know what it is, but it does involve needing people to rise up. But that also shows, yes, he's got a plan, but he's not sure whether it's going to be necessary. He's still not sure of everything, which I can understand.
Yeah. A soft knock came at his door. He turned, curious, as Sazed peeked his head into the room. I apologize, Mr. Kelsier, but a guard came to me and said he could see you up on your balcony. He was worried that you'd give yourself away. Kelsier sighed but backed away from the balcony, pulling the doors closed and shutting the drapes. I'm not meant for anonymity, Saz. For a thief, I'm really not all that good at hiding. Sazed smiled and began to withdraw. Sazed, I can't sleep. Do you have a new proposal for me? Sazed smiled broadly, walking into the room. Of course, Mr. Kelsier. Lately I've been thinking that you should hear about the truths of the Bennett. They fit you quite well, I think. The Bennett were a highly developed people who lived on the southern islands. They were brave seafarers and brilliant cartographers. Some of the maps the Final Empire still uses were developed by the Bennett explorers. Their religion was designed to be practiced aboard ships that were away at sea for months at a time. The captain was also their minister, and no man was allowed to command unless he had received theological training. Probably weren't very many mutinies. It was a good religion, Master Kelsier. It focused on discovery and knowledge. To these people, the making of maps was a reverent duty. They believed that once all of the world was known and understood and catalogued, men would finally find peace and harmony. Many religions teach such ideals, but few actually manage to practice them as well as the Bennett. So, the idea here being, once you have charted the entire Earth, peace and harmony come?
Mm-hmm. You just because you know everything, if you know what is there, there will be harmony. So I guess, yeah, okay, yeah. The pursuit of knowledge. So it's like, I guess it's like science. But yeah,
It's neat.
it is a neat idea, and all religions have certain ideals that are appealing for different reasons. So
Yeah. Kelsier frowned, leaning back against the wall beside the balcony drapes. Peace and harmony. I'm not really looking for either right now, Saz. Ah, could you tell me about the Vala again? Certainly. What specifically would you like to know? I'm not sure. I'm sorry, Saz. I'm in a strange mood tonight. You are always in a strange mood, I think. However, you choose an interesting sect to ask after. The Walla lasted longer into the Lord Ruler's dominions than any other religion. That's why I ask. I need to understand what kept them going for so long, Saz. What made them keep fighting? They were the most determined, I think. But they didn't have any leaders. The Lord Ruler had slaughtered the entire Volan religious council as part of his first conquest. Oh, they had leaders, Mr. Kelsier. Dead ones, true, but leaders nonetheless. Some men would say that their devotion didn't make sense. The loss of the Valan leaders should have broken the people, not made them more determined to keep going.
that's the line. I wrote, "Who are we losing? We're gonna lose Calcia. Are we gonna lose Calcia?"
We're totally going to lose Kelsier.
That's because this whole discussion is like, yeah, you become a more powerful leader if you die, if you become some sort of martyr. I'm scared. So yeah, that's
Wait.
what worried me.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah. That's totally what he's after. We're going to lose Kelsier, aren't we, at the end of this book?
I'm scared. I hope not, but at some point it seems like it might happen.
To be honest, this is the first time the thought has crossed into my mind.
Well, it's brought. He's planted it here. Okay, I'm becoming American. He's planted it here. Brandon Sanderson planted it here.
American kitty.
Yeah, maybe he's just playing with us, you know?
Sazed shook his head. Men are more resilient than that, I think. Our belief is often strongest when it should be weakest. That is the nature of hope. Kelsier nodded. Do you want further instruction on Zavala? No thanks, Saz. I just need to be reminded that there were people who fought even when things looked hopeless. I think I understand, Mr. Kelsier. Good evening, then. Kelsier nodded distractedly, letting the terraceman withdraw. End chapter.
Mm-hmm. Are we just going to sit with the worry here? Is that what we're going to do?
I think so. A lot of really important things happened in this chapter, I think.
It was a deep chapter, man. A lot of important things happened. A lot of important thoughts were thunk.
Yep.
It's heavy. Well, not heavy. It's nice, weighty, and you know.
Yeah. Oh gosh, now I'm worried Kelsier's gonna die.
It was too like on the nose that somebody needed to die. You know, maybe I'm just because I just am kind of obsessed with Dune 2 right now, and one of the things that happened in there is the Emperor's daughter says, dead leaders or whatever in religions, like it makes a dead leader makes them more powerful. Dead prophets are more powerful. So that I just have that on my mind. I think I don't think I'm pulling it out of my ass. There is this connection, but that also could just be my George R. Martin fear. My oh my god, I'm losing characters thing. Don't get it? Yeah, that's what it is. And I like that. I like the anticipation. I would not be disappointed if he survived. If all that setup was for nothing, I'm very happy.
I agree.
Please stay alive.
Look, I want to fall back on my early prediction that Vin would in some way save Kelsier at the end of all of this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you don't get a dead Kelsier. Oh, shush in the comments. But also another thing, like remember we were so convinced that the next thing they were going to do is they were going to walk into Clubs' shop and everyone was going to be killed. Well, like remember we were like, oh my god, like we were so convinced. We actually had to read the next chapter immediately, so because we were so worried, and also it's just so intense, and so we've been wrong about that. We've sensed some huge undertone and been like, oh my god, and then nothing. So it might be that.
Here's hoping. Oh gosh, any last things to say?
Oh yes. Like this video, subscribe to the No One Asked You podcast. Also going to be available on
Spotify apparently.
At some point.
I think I figured that out earlier.
Yeah. It is available by this time. Fully available.
Oh yeah. By the time this airs, we should be up on Spotify.
Yay.
Yeah. But that was not a signal to do that. Is there anything else to say on the chapter?
I've said so much, but I've probably left things out that because I do remember as we were reading going, I'll bring that up, and then I'm like, nah, we don't really need to bring that up. Probably bring it up in chat as I listen. So
yeah. I think I rambled quite a bit nonsensically this chapter, and I am trying to be better about posting in the chat. I'm trying.
You're doing good.
Thank you. Hi everyone. If you haven't subscribed to ThatDarnKitteh, she has a fantastic channel. Highly recommend it. She does diagrams, and she's got a panel show on Thursdays that I hang out in sometimes. Most of the
time, yeah.
Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you next week. Bye.